Did you think it was going to be a song?
Oh, wait, for a second. And then I would come in with the Spanish rendition in the background. Since I'm back from Mexico.
Episode 567. You were
I
waiting.
love it!
When you were in Mexico, did you see any mariachi bands? Your favorite?
Yes, I did. One. But here's the thing, Suze. I was disappointed with the lack of Mexican music that I heard.
What do you mean there wasn't?
Or like I was disappointed that with how little I got to experience.
That is very disappointing.
Because I may have I think I changed my mind. I think I've come around. I'm
so glad because that was really a bummer that you hate like basically cultural like folk music.
No, get out of here. No, here's what I realized I don't like. I don't like people serenading a single table. It doesn't matter what genre.
So you associate it with mariachi.
Yes. Because they come up to your table and then they play, and then that I don't know what face to make. I don't know. You can't dance when you're sitting at the chair.
Yeah,
it feels like they're just playing to you. It feels, and then I being unfamiliar with songs, I do not know how long it's going to last.
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm just strapped in.
Yeah,
and
you
just
didn't even know how to pace your reaction.
Right. It's very uncomfortable for me. I feel similar to, I had an experience recently I don't know where I was. I want to say it was at a Disneyland type setting or something like that. But somebody playing like the violin at a table or like coming up and doing.
But see, this is why I would think you would hate close-up magic.
No, that's different.
Why is it different? It's the same.
This is a good point. What is different?
You do love an illusion.
Well, you know when the ending's coming with that. Sometimes.
That's true, but you don't know what the ending is, so there's still
Correct.
an element of surprise.
And
let's face
You're
it,
right.
you just hate Mexican music.
No, I love it.
And German music. She
No.
hates a polka.
I don't hate a polka. I'm probably I'm mediocre on a polka.
Well, okay, fine.
Is there an L in polka?
Ellen?
Polk. No, not Ellen. How do you Polka?
Yeah,
polka?
there is. Yeah, like polka dot.
Polka. Man, that's a funny word.
It really is. Ellen should have a polka, though. That bitch loves to dance.
She does. Or loves to watch other people dance.
I don't know if she does ethnic styles, though.
Well,
She
she'd
sticks
probably
to
be
pop.
into mariachi.
Everyone is, except you.
I know. Susie,
Just
why are
joking.
we getting in a fight on this? I've come around.
How was your vacation? Was it fun?
It was wonderful. It was so nice to, it was one of those trips where I was kind of forced off the grid because they said, yeah, we have Wi-Fi here.
I hate that.
No, they did not.
That's the worst.
Yeah, so I couldn't even, it was one of those my Instagram's frozen on the same photo for 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, come on, I tried to upload something and it says upload failed. Retry for the, and so I just got stuck. So I was forced. And after doing that for a little bit, I was I surrendered to the nature and maybe a little bit for the best because it was nice to.
What type of temperature are we talking?
Oh, comfortable degrees,
like 80
whatever
or
that's
something?
78 and perfect, and maybe and not and great humidity for my hair.
It's always
I love
a concern.
That. Always, it's just the right amount, and it was one of those trips where you never really change out of a bathing suit, and I went, and there were a bunch of people there who just really loved having a good time. And so one of the days, the day of the wedding, so I went, I should explain to people why the heck I was in Mexico if you guys didn't. Did I talk about this on our last episode?
Not really.
Not really.
You said your second date was going to be in Mexico. That's it.
Oh, yes. My second date was going to be in Mexico. Yeah. So, I was. I was
you
invited.
You really live on the edge with that. I mean, you meet these guys in these remote places. You're going to be on Dateline. stresses me out.
I was glad. I was making sure that I was at a place where we were at an all-inclusive resort, Susie.
I'm just glad you made it out alive.
Well, me too, because what was I drinking? Miami Vices.
What the hell are those?
Oh, it's like a strawberry daiquiri and a pina colada in the same glass.
That sounds nice.
Oh my gosh, Susie! It's also a party in a glass. It's like the best. But yeah, so it was great. So the day of the tandem bike guy who you've nicknamed Romeo, he invited me down to Mexico as his +1 for his friend's wedding, and he was in the wedding. So on the day of the wedding, he had some activities to do, and photos taken, this and that. And I didn't, so I went with a bunch of other friends of his, and we went on a little boat and went snorkeling and went to this little island that had a little river creek that we hiked up and to these these and we were hiking up.
You are so adventurous.
It was so much fun, Suze, and it was cool to be in it, to be hanging out with a group that was equally as adventurous.
No, that's the part that I think is the adventure.
What?
Hanging out with people I don't know, like small talk central.
It is, but it was nice. They were pretty, I, as a therapist, that's kind of, we're kind of good at making the combo point and asking open-ended questions.
But listen, believe me, as an interviewer, I know I could do it, but it would be so I'd rather be alone,
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do love being alone, but you get a better rate on the chartered boat when you go with a group of 8.
The group discount.
So, you get the group discount. So I took advantage of that, and it was pretty fun, and people were really cool. It was funny on the boat that we went on. So the whole weekend, people kept coming up to me and saying, "Didn't I have lunch with you the other day? Didn't I see you somewhere the other day?" And it took me a little while to realize what was happening, and a few other people to say, "Wait a sec, you look just like our friend." There was another girl there who I'm not kidding. Susie, I have a doppelganger. I had a serious doppelganger.
What's her name?
Sam.
Oh my God.
And guess what she is? An occupational therapist.
No.
And we have not just the same tattoos on the same, they look the same. The tattoos are all of waves. We had a nose ring. It was like looking in a mirror.
Stop it.
And she had curly hair.
Oh my God, like the poor man Sarah. You guys should make a sitcom.
People kept coming up to us, or I'm the poor man's her. I'm still not sure. They're still out. But people kept on coming up to either of us, and she would say to me, "They're confusing you all day long too?" Yep,
that
me
is
too.
Crazy.
Yep, and so we took a couple pictures where people were like, hey, do the same thing. Both of you hold your hand up like this. And we're like, okay.
Oh my God, it's like 3 identical strangers.
It was kind of funny that we had a doppelganger the whole weekend. So it was really fun. And the wedding was fantastic. And I just loved dancing all night long on, and you know how I love a wedding dance floor.
I do too.
Big fan. We're the same. There's nothing better. Give me all the hits.
The skill expectation is so low.
Yes.
And the alcohol is so high.
So high. And at an all-inclusive resort where people are just, which by the way, I went to a really nice one.
Thank God.
There are some, I have changed my mind on all-inclusives.
Get out of here.
Suze, this place was,
I'm not surprised, actually, because you love a buffet. Did they have that?
I didn't even go to one the whole time.
Whoa.
There was one, but I was just I think I was satisfied with what are they? Room service breakfast and things like that. I didn't even need it. And having the ocean right there, it was I ran and jumped in the water just on a whim all the time.
Dang.
I'm just going to go take a dip. I'm just going to go right in and take a dip real quick. It's
you
right
do
there.
Love that.
I love taking a dip.
She loves a dip.
It's so fun. Love a dip. I also loved something else I did out there, which was a little bit my first time ever of microdosing.
Oh my gosh. Well, first, before you tell, then I have to tell people why, they need to do a little regular dosing of ritual vitamins.
Yes, got to get your vitamins in.
Get your vitamins. Ritual is a fantastic company. In fact, I just opened my monthly bottle yesterday, and I was, again, struck by that damn mint smell.
So good.
Like, thank you, Ritual. It is so good. It never gets old for me because it's very easy on your tummy, and it is delicious and plant-based. And they also have protein, which is fantastic. So you can do that. You can make a smoothie. You can do your little workout protein situation. They're shaking things up. And it just helps you get in those vitamins and things you might miss when you're eating. So why not shake up your ritual to make trying something new, less scary? Ritual offers a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% in love. Plus, our listeners get 10% off during your first 3 months. Just visit ritual.com/braincandy to add essential protein today. That's ritual.com/braincandy. And Lincoln takes the kids' gummies, and he likes them, which is a miracle. So if you guys are looking for...
I want those.
Yeah, if you're looking for gummies for your kids or for your Sarah, you should try them. Okay, yes, tell us about the microdosing.
Yes. Okay, so I have never done any psychedelic, like I did mushrooms. It's been like years, years. Okay. And the mushroom experience I had was like maybe too much. And I was like, no, let's dial this back. We're good. We're like set for forever.
Yeah, you were just sort of like, that was good to do, but then I'm not going to keep doing it.
Right. But I did a little bit of microdosing while I was out there.
What are we dosing?
This one happened. Oh my God, I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud. No, it's not. LSD.
Oh, wow. Okay, groovy, baby.
Groovy, baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If I would have had this and nobody told me, I would have never noticed that there was anything going on.
What would you have thought that it was?
That I was just in a really good mood.
Oh, wow. That's ideal.
I would have never, I didn't see anything. It didn't look different. Nothing was I wouldn't have noticed anything. It was such a small amount that it was like you couldn't even, the only thing that I noticed was that I was so freaking present and centered and where I was, like, it was, I can't even freaking explain it. It was so strange. It was so pleasant. And, I've been reading all of this stuff. One of our listeners, Cassie, sent a great article from Rolling Stone that was titled The Psychedelic Miracle, How Some Doctors Are Risking Everything to Unleash the Healing Powers of Ayahuasca, MDMA, and Other Hallucinogens. Mm-hmm. And our book club book of the month is How to Change Your Mind. How to Change Your Brain? How to Change Your Mind.
Change Your Mind.
I think it's How to Change Your Mind. That is all about psychedelics as well. And I for the first time understood the, like, how like all of those articles and like all the people, like I have this like idea of the, I don't know, like the hippie generation being like, oh, man, the government's just trying to like scare you and like the drugs are fine and everything. They're just like saying all that. And it's just like, like it's going to fry. Yeah, they kind of are. Because like, I was like, this is it? This is what I'm freaked out? I mean, of course it was a micro amount, but in my mind, I was like going to see things like it was going to be like crazy and maybe in like large doses. But I was like, this is what this is what we're keeping people away from.
What are
this experience that now I feel like the most relaxed I've ever been in my fucking life, that I feel like the least depressed and like and not just while you're like now. After that, I have this, when we were talking about Sarah Silverman and we were saying nothing matters.
Right.
It was like that, but like the good side of that.
Yeah. Then when she was like, oh, nothing matters. It's fine.
Nothing matters. It's fine. Mm-hmm. That's like the vibe that I am like feeling. And whether that is like, I don't know what, but I felt like it was a little nudge to just help me kind of like, do you know that little voice? Do you have, I should say, that little voice that seems like it's always there in the back of your mind? It's almost like a doubting voice. or it's like reminding you of what you need to be doing, or it's like, well, you could
like
do that, but
voice.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You know that voice?
Sure, I do.
It puts that on mute.
Oh, that's cool.
It was great.
It's funny that you're experiencing this because I am stone cold sober right now because someone I love has decided to do Sober November. And
nice.
They asked me to do it with them, like as a show of support.
Yes.
So but I had already, like in August, I went off my antidepressants.
Yeah.
And then I went off a few weeks ago off of edibles because, you know,
wow.
I didn't want to keep doing those to go to sleep. I wanted to use, just proper or just go nothing. Mm-hmm. And then I stopped wine and I stopped pop.
Oh, well, look at you.
Yeah. So it's gone great.
That's great. Do you feel a difference?
Yeah, it's just a nice reset.
It is. What do you notice?
Well, so these things, I don't know if for everyone, but for me, they tend to be all go together. So let's say you take an edible to get sleep. Then when you wake up, you might feel a little groggy. So you need caffeine, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have caffeine and you're up and up and up. And then your work day's over and you're like, I need a glass of wine. I got to calm down, right? Yep. So like they kind of feed each other.
Absolutely.
So by getting rid of all of those things, it allowed me to sort of, get a restart. So it's fun. I like it.
I love that. I love a good restart. And I love a good, like, also having that chance to kind of, step out of maybe like habitual cycles or behaviors. To
and
get
notice,
a reset.
like, when let's say you crave it, then you think, okay, what is it? What's causing that craving? And what does it signify? And then you learn more about your behaviors.
Yes, I love this.
But I love the idea of microdosing too, and I think that can be a reset.
Well, you know what? I totally agree with you on that too, because, in thinking about that, it almost feels very different than something that's like a habitual thing like caffeine or alcohol, because it's almost like I want that less, and there isn't the desire to microdose again, to do it again. Like I don't want to I feel like
it's not like you're like, oh, now I need it all the time.
Now I need it. I read this and I saved this because I thought it was kind of matched how I was feeling, but it said people are not addicted to drugs. They're addicted to escaping reality. Through our emotional body, we are creating bliss or depression. The high you seek is within. Mm-hmm. And I was like, ooh, that is it. Because and remember how we were talking about, I think we were talking about it on here, about how the love that we feel is manifested within ourselves, that it's not another person necessarily who yes, they are the object, or the maybe where we direct that love, or where we are creating, centering some of those feelings around, but the actual feelings of those hormones that you feel, that's all manifested inside of you.
I just read a quote that speaks to that. It was talking about the way we care for our children, and it was in the context of all this talk about paternity leave and stuff. Mm-hmm. And this scholar was saying, we don't care for someone like a child because we love them. We love them because of the acts of care that we perform for them. So by caring for them, it grows our love internally. And so it's what you're saying, where it's it's all just googing up inside your body, and it's all chemicals. That's what every feeling is.
Yes, absolutely. And if you can just get to connect to, and it also makes me feel like I'm more in charge of everything, and I'm more in the driver's seat, which, as a controlling individual, I fucking love that.
Well, not to make this all about me, because I know this is your story, but
I love it, Suze. This is great.
One other thing I noticed, and it was really insightful for me, is as somebody who grew up fundamentalist, we were stone cold sober all the time. Yeah. And so there was no sex, drugs, or rock and roll at all. But what you noticed for me is growing up, and I see in these communities, is the youth, they're like super into like board games and like going bowling and like doing, because you need something to kind of get you that feeling of like fun. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so once I stopped everything, I noticed that urge in me happened in such a beautiful way, because I was like, more like, hey, Link, let's go out on the trampoline. Hey,
yes.
Let's go bowling. Let's go play Clue, because you want that same fun, but you're not relying on a glass of wine or whatever.
Right.
So that's cool.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's being able to create those same
chemicals.
In your brain in a way that, and
it's more active, actually, less passive.
Yeah, it really is. Now that I think about it, it's almost like the opposite. Because in one, you're just trying to kind of like numb or stimulate, or like the other one, it seems almost more authentic and more,
it's what you said. You're in the driver's seat.
You're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, you're taking an active role in the feeling rather than letting some chemical just be internalized and consumed to create it for you.
I just love that.
Neither is bad or good. It's just nice to know how these things work, and then you can make decisions accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think my least favorite, the one that is just the worst is alcohol.
I know.
It's
the easiest.
And it's the one that's just like, that's the number.
Some people too, it's food. Everybody has different things. Yeah. What are these alleged side effects of LSD? Like, what is the sort of this could happen? Like, do you get a cotton mouth or whatever?
No, I don't even. You know what? I don't even freaking know, because in my mind, what I had in my head was like people like hallucinate, like they see things, and I think that, and then from there, like, I don't even know what maybe like,
well, sometimes
psychosis.
They worry about like a bad trip. I guess that's what that is.
Yeah, like a bad trip and maybe a heart issue. But if you took it's like taking too much, and then, but then it just like goes away.
Oh yeah, because if all those chemicals are released, then you get like depleted, and then you crash or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like but there really isn't. I honestly think that, because I didn't feel anything.
No hangover. No nothing.
No. Mm-hmm. Nothing. Not, and just the general sense of like being present and being like appreciative and grateful for my surroundings and for nature. And you know what? It made me really, really, like, I knew what I didn't want to be around. And that was a fucking screen. Really? Any sort of like I did not. I was like, I don't want a phone. I don't want a TV. I don't want to look at anything that's like electronic, like that. So it would like mess up the vibes right now.
Really?
Like that felt like I knew what I didn't want to do, and I was like, no, like. Excuse me. It was you would have never known if you were talking to me. That like you would have never in a million years known that there was any difference or anything like that, and it was totally normal. I was just in the happiest mood, and it was the fucking shit, man.
Good. I'm glad it was a positive experience.
Yeah, and now I feel like reading that book that we're reading for book club. It's even though it seems like I'm a risk taker and it seems like oh my gosh, you're going to Mexico on a second date kind of thing. It sounds real exciting. I'm a rule follower for the most part, and I get really nervous doing anything like I've pretended to do mushrooms before with people because I didn't want, Like,
tell me what you did to be convincing.
What, when I pretended to do mushrooms?
Yeah.
Oh, do you know this story? That's
no,
what you're
I don't.
Oh, yeah, okay. So my friend who we were talking about earlier, Susie, that
yes,
I won't talk about on here, who's a partier. It was like a fucking Tuesday night or something, and she was like, "Let's do shrooms," and I was like, "No, I can't."
Do remember this.
And she was like, "Here you go. We're gonna take it with some peanut butter," and she like put some
God.
on gave me some and like gave me a spoon of peanut butter, and I took some, and I was like, and then I tossed it over my shoulder.
You did. Not.
And she wasn't looking. And I just ate it because I was like, oh, yeah, okay, ooh, a good trip. Because I was like, I can't fucking do this shit. No.
Wait. So
I was too scared.
She's high on shrooms.
Yeah.
What was she doing? Like, how did she act?
She was dancing and listening to music and like dancing in the living room.
Oh, my God. And did you dance?
No, I went home.
That's so great.
Like, nah, this is fucking weird. I'm not doing this.
Okay.
And so I was just like too scared, and like I have to research everything. This is like the whole point I'm making. I read about it. Then I have to look at all the fucking drug studies. Like I would say for a long time when like I had friends who, would like have fun here and there with whatever they were doing. And I would be like, nope, I'm not the person you want to do drugs with. I'm definitely like, I'm not fun to do drugs with because I'm going to be like feeling my pulse, and I'm going to be talking about what areas of the brain this is affecting, and it's like not a good time. And even when I'm drinking, like I can be a buzzkill when it comes to drugs. So because I know what's happening internally, and I feel like then I get in my head about that, and it's just all too much. It's almost like you're better off knowing nothing.
Yeah.
So I like over research it, and then I get all in my head, and then so it's also that same feeling of like, oh, if I read all about it, it's the same as experiencing it, right? No, it's not. You can read every single book, and I'm like, yeah, I totally get, like, I understand how this can relieve depression, and I understand how this can open up somebody's, or like free somebody of some of the ways that their ego maybe prevents them from, I don't know, enjoying life the way that they should. All that stuff. I read about, like, I understand it conceptually, and I feel like, okay, that's enough. It was nice to be able to understand that in a more real way. And I really do, like, fully believe in the healing power of hallucinogens. Mm-hmm. I don't think, I would have said the same thing. Like, I mean, I get it. Yes, I do. But not in the way that I understand that. Mm-hmm. And with such minor... with no like I feel more if I accidentally double up in my Adderall dosage. That fucking freaks. Makes me like, that's way worse.
You get the shakes or something, right?
Yeah, or dry mouth like crazy, and that is way worse. Mm-hmm. Too much caffeine. When I have like 4 espresso shots. Oh my God, like, or a 5-hour energy drink.
Happen.
If I have a 5-hour energy drink, oh my God, forget it. Like, that is it feels like my body, there's way more terrible things happening inside my body. So that's
She's a believer.
I'm a believer now. And I can't believe that I fucking did that. I feel like such a hippie.
I love it.
I know. I'm like, okay, what's next? Grateful Dead concert? Are we going to wear tie-dye from now on?
One thing that's definitely next is how for dinner I get to have HelloFresh.
Oh, delicious. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and share this. I have a friend whose mom was not, just had surgery, and I got my HelloFresh meals, and I just cooked up all of them, and I brought them over to her, and I was like, here you go. And so thank you, HelloFresh, for providing some healthy meals for my friend's mom who had surgery, because I think it's something I would have not even thought about of how that could be useful. And if you know somebody who's like just has some stuff on their plate right now,
That is nice.
and maybe needs some food on their plate that you can help them out with, HelloFresh could be great for that.
That is such a good point. And I think, we're entering into a very chaotic time of year, and people have a lot going on with the holidays, and so this is a great solution for mealtime. HelloFresh offers all different options that you can choose from. So, they have this chicken ramen. Oh, Lordy.
Oh.
It is so good. Like the broth, it's legit. Like, you know how ramen for me is all about the broth.
Yes.
They have gnocchi and really nice, because everyone's like, it's fall. We want soothing comfort foods, but we don't want to spend a million years trying to make it and shop for it and all that. So this solves the problem. They send to your door all the ingredients you need to make delicious meals. And it is so much more affordable and cost-effective than normal shopping. So I'll give you the scoop. Go to HelloFresh.com/BrainCandy14 and use code BrainCandy14 for up to 14 free meals and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com/BrainCandy14 and use code BrainCandy14 for up to 14 free meals and 3 free gifts. What a great deal. Mm-hmm. Love it. Okay. As you were.
Now you got me thinking about that gnocchi and I'm like,
oh, right. It's very comforting.
Yum.
Yeah.
I do love that. I made that the other day because that was one I got, and it was so good.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes. Okay, so what other non-drug related things do I want to talk to you about? I have some pretty funny stories about our favorite subject.
Oh my gosh, poo?
Yes.
What do you got?
Okay, so I want to see who sent this to us because it was such a good story. I have to give somebody who sent this credit. This is from Mo. That's right. People apparently, I'm hoping to God this is a fucking internet prank and they're trolling me, but now I'm not really sure. People are ditching toilet paper for reusable cloth rolls.
Yes, that's true.
Susie!
Yeah, I've seen this on the zero waste sites I follow.
Susie!
Yes.
Can you please, let's talk about a couple things.
Yeah.
One, It's a roll. Is it a continue? The pictures I saw were of a continuous roll.
Yeah.
How? Go ahead, explain that. What am I supposed to do with that?
I don't know whether I've just decided that it has to break apart. It's like Velcro or something.
Oh.
Or I'm just unwilling to accept that maybe it is just a roll that goes on.
I'm getting sick just thinking of it. Okay, so remember
do these people not know about bidets, for Pete's sake?
Right.
Like there are better solutions.
That's actually that's a really good point because after just visiting Mexico and when we traveled for the challenge, a lot of the places we went, they would have bidets because they didn't have the kind of plumbing that would be allow for like toilet paper and all that kind of stuff. So or you'd have to throw your waste throw your paper in the garbage can like we did in Thailand.
Yeah.
Like which was I would rather have a bidet. When you throw that toilet paper in the trash can, it smells.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
So what happens? What's the process, Suze? Who's in charge of washing things?
Right?
Who does that? You know who?
There are so many things wrong with this.
And
And here's the other thing. You have it. So you throw it in the laundry whenever it's complete. Yeah. You can't wash anything else with it. So to me, that's also wasteful.
And let's return to a conversation we had a couple episodes back about my towels and the
right.
order of the
life cycle of your towels.
Yeah. And the nastiness that I experienced when I almost dried myself off. / dried a little bit of my face off with Bo's towel. And I was like, ah! Could you imagine, what that laundry smell? No.
Right.
Am I being snooty right now? Is this a perfect thing?
And then these people are often the same people who refuse to use bleach because it's toxic. So what are you cleaning that with?
Well, you can't use bleach. Have you seen the nice colors on the toilet paper? At least they've been kind enough to
They are like a quilt.
Yeah, they're like quilted and definitely
Quilt squares.
multicolored. And you have to choose multicolored because
Oh,
of the
yes.
skid marks. As you call them, skitters.
Stop it.
I know you call them that, don't you?
I sure do, because when you
Yeah.
get skitters, I mean, we all know what that looks like, and it's not good.
Yeah.
What would you do if you went to Romeo's house?
You're terrible. Not a thing.
Or just anyone's house. Let's say you went to
Yes.
anyone's house,
Yeah.
and they were like, yeah, bathroom's the first door on the right.
Oh,
and
my
then
God.
you went in there and had to go number 2, and then, or not even. What if you did number 1?
Oh, my God.
And you
But
gotta
imagine
use that
number
roll.
2. Imagine number 2.
I almost think the 1 is worse because you're putting it on your vagina, and that had poo on it.
Oh my God! Susie, I'm not okay. I'm like really, I really draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
I just got to. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Is this one of those like people have too much fucking time on their hands? I wish we were recording. You could see the video of this episode to see like what this is
Like how
doing to me.
upset you are.
Because like because I'm imagining. You know what I'm annoyed about? Because I'm thinking about the picture that I have in my head of the toilet paper roll that I saw that I'm like pulling up in my mind's eye right now, and it has like a finished edge.
Yes,
Like,
there's
somebody
like piping along the edge.
Fuck off with your finished edge on your shit towel. I can't. You got too much time on your hands.
Wait, I gotta write that down. Fuck off with your finished edge on your, what was it?
Shit towel. Oh, God. I can't take it. And here I am just trying to I was thinking I had a terrible experience with the tailor before I went on this trip.
What
That
happened?
was like, Suze, I almost lost my goddamn mind to this tailor. So I got this great dress that I loved from Poshmark.
It looked beautiful on you.
Oh, thank you. I loved it. And keep your eye out on it for it because I'm going to be,
It'll be on Poshmark any minute.
Yeah, because, you can only wear these kind of dress you wear them once, this kind of thing. And it was so beautiful. I loved it. Somebody else should enjoy it too. But it was a little bit too long in the straps, so I took it in to the tailor to have him take the straps up. Super easy, no problem. The person who sewed it folded the strap over, then sewed it to the outside of the dress, then finished it when you're finishing a seam and you go back and forth a couple times.
On the outside. But
on
this
the
person
outside.
did this on the outside.
They did it on the outside, and they went back and they used white thread on a gray/blue dress.
Wow.
It couldn't have been more obvious. It looked so thank God she didn't cut it.
What did you say to this hooker?
I went, oh my God. I didn't check the dress when I was at the dry cleaner, at the tailor. I took it home. And then, because I had to run, I was in between sessions. And then I had a half-hour break, and I had to run back there. And all I did was get my money back. I was like, this is crazy. And I asked if they had a seam ripper, a seam ripper, so I could take it all out and undo it. And then, because they had pressed it for me too, they only gave me 50% of my money back.
Wow.
And I was just like, this is annoying, but whatever. And what was the whole point of me telling this story about my dress?
We were talking about toilet paper rolls.
And I was talking about the tailor. Mm-hmm. Why did I start? Why would I?
You said fuck off with your finished edge on your shit towel. I love that you still don't know.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so this whole thing goes down. I all I need are the straps shortened and the amount of time that it I didn't have the time in my schedule to be able to do that. And it felt and then this tailor messed up the dress and not messed it up. I was able to take it all out and I did it myself in a temporary one that then I was able to, it's all fucking, it was fine in the end. But it was still I didn't have time to do a very simple, sewing, taking the straps up. I had to like outsource that. And some person has the time to finish an edge on a toilet, on something that is so unnecessary.
Yeah, and gross.
That feels like you're like, this is like, you're just looking for things that are either clickbaity or to just put in your fucking, like, I don't know, blog for.
Right.
This is content. The same person who like, I have to read about like your grandmother's like old like story from when she was growing up to get to the recipe for the, banana bread.
I think Sarah could use a session with BetterHelp. Am I right?
Probably. Oh, yeah. I love BetterHelp.
I love BetterHelp, too. It's a wonderful service if you are thinking of trying therapy, because you can do it from the comfort of your own home, and you can do it at any time that is convenient for you. And they are committed to facilitating these therapeutic matches, so you can find a counselor that meets your needs and can help you with depression or anxiety or a toilet paper roll.
Gosh, or that makes you depressed and anxious?
Anything. And it is convenient and professional. These are licensed counselors. And, everybody needs a little help. So why don't you give it a try? We want you to start living a happier life today. As a listener, you get 10% off your first month by visiting betterhelp.com/braincandy. Join over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/braincandy.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Oh, yes. I do need a little therapy to talk about my feelings about this.
That was tough time.
You'd think after the microdosing, I'd be a little more chill about, I'm like, yeah, do whatever you want. But no. I think maybe it had the opposite effect. You know how you say sometimes I'm a little too forgiving and a little too...
well, that's true.
It's like I sometimes need to be a little more of an asshole.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Maybe it helps with that.
It is funny to me how it cracks me up how you're always mad at some like retailer. It's like Home Depot
I am
or whatever.
Always mad at a retailer.
What do you think it is that
I fucking hate the man? I'm like, I hate capitalism.
Yes, that's it.
I fucking hate capitalism.
Yes. I mean,
yeah.
It becomes evident. But on the other hand, like, I guess the tailor would qualify as capitalism, but it is more of a small business, right?
It is small business, yeah.
But do you think that they knew they were giving you a bum deal or what? Like, why would they do it that way?
Well, and also, Susie, here's also something that I'm glad we're talking about this, because this kind of annoyed me, and I feel like you would, when it was happening, I was already imagining the conversation I was having with you about this, and how you would get. This is the part that you'd be like, "Those two things aren't related." And okay, so I go in there, and this dry cleaner is lovely. He's so nice. He's like, we're always like chatty. Yes.
Okay.
And we have such he's funny, and we have a good time chatting.
Yeah.
And so when I went in there to drop off the dress and to like have him pin it, and he's not the one who tailors it. He's just the owner, and then he's got another gal who's the seamstress.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went back to complain and be like, dude, this is like, you got to take this out. This is WTF. Come on. He was like, what? Wait, we had such a good time earlier. We laughed.
Oh,
we had fun.
Oh, man.
Yes. And I was like, yes, all of those things are true.
Right.
But which is why I'm like,
in your eyes, that makes it worse. You're thinking like, I trusted you. I thought we were friends.
Yeah. I'm like, I thought we were friends here. Don't fuck it up. Don't give me
what fascinates me is I would have had the same feeling about the tailoring, but I would have just lived with it.
Oh, no, I couldn't
anything.
have. It was, a lot of it was like a principle thing.
Yeah, you do not like being taken advantage of.
I hate it. Mm-hmm. And what I also hate is the thing that was going through my head the whole time was, if you want something done right, you just had to do it yourself. And I outsourced a job that I absolutely know how to do.
That's true.
This is not like plumbing or, you know, like this is something that I'm almost embarrassed that I took it to the tailor.
Right.
Because if I told my mom that, she'd be like, what? Just fucking what? Sarah, did I teach you nothing? You could do this in 2 seconds.
Right.
And I did do it in 2 seconds while I was like,
oh my gosh,
you know,
you had to fix it yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was and I did it in the hotel room with the hotel sewing kit that I knew was going to be in there. And I was like, yeah, no problem. It's like boom, boom, boom. And then I just did it in a temporary way where I could just take the stitches out so I can like, you know, resell it.
But I can't believe that guy didn't say like, what the heck? Why'd she do it like that? Why wasn't he rallying with you?
He was kind of like, oh, well, you know, she probably wanted to, he was being kind of defensive, like for himself. He was definitely, like throwing her under the bus. He was like, well, I'm not the tailor. I'm not the one who did it. And I didn't like that.
Right.
And she wasn't there to defend herself. And I was like, it's not, I get it. She probably like knew I was in a rush. You know, I needed to, it was like 48 hours kind of like thing that I needed it in.
Right.
But still, it took me about 2 minutes to do it.
Wow.
So I was bummed. And I wasn't too keen on but we were having fun earlier. Cause I'm like, yeah,
no.
we could have fun, but also, you know, you gotta do the job.
Do your job, my man.
Supposed to do, you know. So that was my
the latest rage.
The latest rage. Yeah. No, I'm trying to think if I'm currently mad at any retailer. No, feeling pretty good.
Just the tailor.
But even then, I'm not. Because it was a small business. I'm like. If I would have demanded all my money back if it were like Target or Walmart or something like that, definitely would have thrown a fit. Man, you know, not throwing a fit. You know, I'm not a Karen over here, but
I do find it very rewarding to use small businesses when possible.
Oh, it's the best, right?
It is.
You know,
I mean, I know it's easy to.
I'm still going to give them a 5-star review. So.
You did?
No, I mean, but like I would if they like
right.
next time they dry clean my clothes, like because when I dropped off the tailoring, he was like, "Oh, and you'll leave a review, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And then I picked it up in my mind. I was like, "Oh, I am not going to be leaving that review, but I'm not going to leave a bad one."
Okay,
I'm definitely
call.
not doing that. I'm not. I don't want to do that because he's still a good. And they were. However, the cobbler, the shoe repairman who tried to upsell me $45 for frickin' putting some rubber anti-skid pads on the bottom, he can fuck off with that.
Sarah's mad at all 19th century vendors.
Yes. I'm mad at the
wait till she
baker,
hears from the blacksmith.
The candlestick maker.
The candlestick maker. What the heck? That's so funny. I mean,
oh my God, that's so funny. You know what? But there actually is. I mean, I'm not mad at them, but I feel like there are some people who should be mad at a big company, and that are the astronauts in the SpaceX capsule, in which the toilets are leaking.
Oh my God!
Did you see this?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's I
think they're
crew.
back now. They got back last night.
Oh, they did. Okay,
thank God.
There was one crew that was still up there. There's two. There's Dragon Capsule. There's Dragon Capsule, and there's Dragon Endeavor. And Dragon Capsule one of them came back. I don't know if do you know if both are back or just one?
No, I just know that one got back last night. They were up there for 6 months in the space station.
So apparently there's another one up there that still has the same problem.
What is going on?
Okay, so the article, of course, was like, I was so excited to read when it says like SpaceX, leaky SpaceX forces astronauts to wear backup underwear or something like that. I'm like, that's hilarious. I need to know.
This combines all of our favorite topics.
Exactly. All of our favorite things. And anytime the word leaky is used in association with anything bathroom related, I'm already like, it's going to be nasty. This is going to be gross. That word instantly turns so disgusting.
What are the mechanics of space defecation?
So I believe it's like a suction situation where
think
like
they
something
would wear
is
diapers.
I think part of certain times they do,
Okay.
but then there's the like just they probably go in something. The thing that was broken in this situation is the tube that was like storing, or like the tank that was supposed to hold the urine. And the urine tank, the urine hose, there was a leak in the urine hose. This is the nasty part that got into the fan system.
Oh man! So the droplets.
I think they might have been like spraying some pee all over the place.
Why are you whispering?
Because it's nasty.
That is so bad.
Yeah, there's a storage tank where the urine goes to be stored. And there's a tube that's connected to that became disconnected or came unplugged. And this allowed urine to essentially not go into the storage tank, but essentially go into the fan system. That's the direct quote from William Gerstemeyer, a former associate administrator at NASA who now works at SpaceX's head of mission assurance.
Well,
and he can assure you that pee is everywhere.
Even though it's funny and stuff, it seems like any kind of thing like this, malfunction, is almost like life-threatening up there.
Terrifying. Like we like laugh and joke because it's pee, but like that's very corrosive to anything that it gets on. Like and any kind of water up there, anything that like that seems like just, and it gets in the fans. Oh no, water. It really freaks me out. People in space just like,
oh my God, any little thing that goes wrong, it's scary.
Yeah. Ooh, terrifies me.
We have a guest, by the way.
Oh.
So I want to introduce her.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
Please. I love a guest.
Okay. But first I want to say that if you're in space or on Earth, you might want to try Best Fiends because it's super fun.
What if they were all up there playing Best Fiends?
Best Fiends is a really fun game that you can... Well, you don't need Wi-Fi, so maybe they are.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Right. It's so fun. During the holiday season, it's the perfect pick-me-up when you need a break from all the holiday action. And don't we all? So Best Fiends is this really cute game with storyline and collectible fiends and tons of fun puzzles, which we love. It's so fun. Sarah's on level gazillion.
Well, here's the thing. I got a new phone and I had to restart.
No.
I know. I'm not happy
about
it.
Hey, you love a challenge.
I do. I'm starting over. It's fun.
Okay. Well, she's going to get started again. They have thousands of levels, so there is lots of time for you and lots of challenges that await you. It'll be so fun. Download Best Fiends free today on the App Store or Google Play. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends. And our guest today, last month for book club, I chose Virginia Soul Smith's book, The Eating Instinct.
Yes.
And it's The Eating Instinct, Food Culture, Body Image, and Guilt in America. And basically, if you're a human being on the earth, you probably have some body issues, and especially women, and especially Western women. And she kind of dives into all the different ways that we can have really bizarre and difficult experiences with food and food culture. It talks about even like, people that only eat like 5 different foods.
Yep.
That
buttered noodle girl.
Yeah, like where that might come from and what it's like to have that experience, and the ways that like moms judge each other, like the freaking Pinterest lunchbox pictures, those kinds of things.
Ridiculous, yes.
And then you feel like you're a bad mom if you let your kid have Doritos, whatever. So her book is really great, and it inspired a lively chat in our book club meeting. And so I thought it would be fun to have Virginia on. And she's delightful. You should follow her on social. She also has a newsletter that you can sign up for that you can get. I just got one today. And she was exploring in the newsletter, like, that idea of you should only eat what your great-grandmother would have eaten, that Michael Pollan ideal, and why that is sort of a flawed piece of logic. So different things like that you may have never thought of, she explores, and it's really insightful. But yeah, welcome to the show, Virginia Soul Smith. Hi, friend. Thanks for coming on Brain Candy. We have to talk about your book, The Eating Instinct, Food Culture, Body Image, and Guilt in America. Congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much.
How the heck you feeling about it?
good. It's sort of a funny thing with a book where, you live it, and especially this book, I lived it for several chapters. And then, you live the reporting for a few years. And then now we're, a little ways out from it being published. I have my head in a new book. And it's like, I don't know, it's in a way you can sort of enjoy it most at this stage.
Yeah, you get a little perspective.
I have a little perspective. It's great to hear when, readers like sort of input and takeaways from it, but I'm no longer like in the trenches with it. So yeah, it's more like...
Whenever the book first came out, what was sort of the general feedback that you would get from people?
Well, a lot of it, interestingly, when I wrote The Eating Instinct, obviously a lot of the story is my experience as a mom dealing with my child's feeding disorder. But, the book is broader than that. I explore people's relationships with food in all different ways, and not just parents. But parents are who connected with the book in particular, which I wasn't totally expecting. I didn't know, it was sort of a hard book to market because I was like, it's kind of for anyone who eats, which is, turns out publishers
That's
don't.
Ideal. They don't.
It's, they like a narrower, clearer audience, I think.
Yeah, right.
But it's interesting. So, so I was immediately getting a lot of questions from parents like, okay, but what do I really do about how I'm feeding my kid, about weight, that kind of thing, which has kind of led to the work I'm doing now. The other really interesting reaction, I feel like women connected with the book very emotionally, and men, this is generalizing, of course, but men often wanted to tell me that they were really fine about food and didn't have any issues. And it was just really like interesting to read about other people, but it wasn't them at all.
No.
Yeah. And I was like,
wait, do you think they're in denial or do you think it's true?
No, I think they're totally in denial. I think male diet culture is alive and well and thriving, but men are conditioned not to like experience their emotions around food. They're sort of conditioned to think that like food is something that's just fuel. And, and it's also like we have more space for men to eat junk food and for men to be in larger bodies. Like we certainly have a more permissive culture towards them. But there's also this way in which like if they do have feelings about food, they haven't been given space or vocabulary to express it. And so I had a lot of men saying like, well, I just eat whatever I want. I'm not neurotic about food like all these women are. But then in the same breath saying like, well, of course I don't eat garbage, or, saying something that I was like, oh, but actually you're showing me you have a lot of hangups about food. You just don't
you feel like there's sort of, I just eat whatevs, and that's all informed by culture too. This sort of masculine approach to like,
right. Totally.
But that's that's because they're like the default human. So they just think that's normal. And then these people have issues that you describe in the book.
Yeah. Or they aren't even acknowledging their own issues. Like they think they eat whatever they want, but actually they're counting macros, or they're going to CrossFit all the time. And, like they're not actually, they're doing things that are just as diety or just as restrictive or just as, everyone has a relationship with their body. Everyone has a relationship with food. You can't escape it. Because that's the human experience. And we're all informed by the larger culture telling us, all these expectations that we get around these topics.
Wow. Well, I'm glad those fellows were reading it anyway, but still okay. Well, like I said, my book club for Brain Candy is almost all women. And so like I told you beforehand, the meeting was just, pardon my cat, by the way. The meeting was just, people have really personal stories to share. Did that ever feel when you were doing the reporting and researching that, like, how do you make sense of something so fraught and so layered in like the dysfunctional parts?
I think it's really tricky. I think this is a topic where everyone has a story to tell. And so like a lot of what I've done since the book has come out is hearing people's stories. I get these like very detailed emails. People really want to work through this stuff, which is great. Like I'm happy to get it. I can't always, obviously, like I'm not a psychologist, I can't fix it for you, but I'm happy to sort of bear witness and, hold space for your experience. But I think what I come back to is I see people blaming themselves for these struggles instead of saying, well, hang on, like, where did I get these ideas? Where did I think, who told me that I have to eat this way to be a good person? Or who told me I have to be in a thin body to be a good person? And that's what I'm kind of constantly trying to shift us towards. Like, we all have struggled in this area. We've all, done different diets or done, like been down these various rabbit holes. But it's not innate to who we are to need to do that. This is something that we have been conditioned to feel like we need to do. And so, I always say, like, don't hate the diet, or like hate diet culture, hate this industry that's profiting off these insecurities, that's sort of constantly telling you you're doing this wrong. And I think that can be a really helpful first step for a lot of people to realize, like, oh, everyone's struggles are very unique and idiosyncratic, but there's a lot of universality in the sense that we all have these struggles. And a lot of that is coming from being told we need to eat according to these like external rules that don't reflect our real needs and desires.
Do you feel like we've made any progress?
It kind of depends on the day. I do think that we have, in the sense that, especially now in writing more about parenting, which, I do on my newsletter, Burnt Toast, and I'm getting a lot of questions from parents. Like, the number one question I get is, how can I do this differently than my parents did? And so I do think the generation of people parenting now are like, oh, we've been through this thing. We don't want to recreate this. How do we make something new? And that's really exciting. I think I see less of people being willing to let themselves off the hook. Like, I hear often from parents who are really trapped in their own disordered eating, but wanting to protect their kids from that and like do things differently from them kids. And, I just want to say, like, you deserve that too. Like,
yes,
freedom you want to give your kid, like, you deserve the same freedom. So,
yes.
But I think that's often how it works. Like, we can sort of recognize this as a larger cultural problem. We can recognize we don't want to inflict this on other people. It just takes longer to finally say, like, I deserve better too. And so, so I think we're in a messy middle spot in a lot of ways, but I do see reasons for being hopeful.
Yeah, I felt that same sentiment when I was reading your book, and these lovely women were struggling with various issues with food, but they did not want that for their kids. And I felt that same feeling of like, you're somebody's kid too.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm talking to myself too. Like, it's not as if I don't include myself in that category.
Totally.
And so do you feel though that, because I was trying to figure out the factors that cause a lot of these issues. And it seems like, yes, there's capitalism. People make a lot of money on telling us we're broken and need their solution. But there's also religious components, morality, purity. And I don't know how we get past all that. Do you feel like it's hopeless, like we're just going to go in circles?
I think that's an inevitable part of the process. There is certainly, I know a lot of people who do a process of quitting one diet and sort of recognizing all the ways that diet was damaging to them. And then very quickly, this one doesn't seem as bad. And this one, and like, we always want there to be this sort of unicorn plan of how to eat that lets us be free of this, but also makes us thin. And so I do think one key component to kind of breaking through and getting to the next stage of this conversation is stepping back from the value we place on thinness and the value we place on beauty, and recognizing that these things have been, over amplified in our culture to the point of oppressing a lot of us. Most of us, most people in human bodies are oppressed by the thin ideal. And so that is a difficult leap to make, because once you start to say, I'm going to care less about thinness, like all these questions, like what about health? What about this? What about, it's a scary leap, but I do think it's the essential leap that we have to make. And again, I see some folks, really trying and getting there. I see some folks being able to sort of do it for people in their lives, but not for themselves. And I think a lot of it has to do with how much conditioning you've internalized and how many of these different cultural influences you're kind of battling against. And I think you're completely right that religion is a big piece of it. There's a lot of morality, purity, cleanliness talk in different religious doctrines. So if that's something you've been raised with, then, unpacking that and figuring out how to kind of reconcile your values with that religious belief system is going to be a whole journey for sure.
Did you watch that documentary Way Down Low on HBO Max yet?
Oh no, I haven't seen it yet.
It's about this lady who ran a cult, a church,
right?
That really focused on weight loss as a symbol of purity and goodness and like God's favor. And you can see how those two, religion and body image, are connected. And it just makes it very clear that a lot of religions do it, but just on a less obvious level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever you were dealing with the personal stuff with your daughter, you had previously worked as a freelance writer, writing about diet and food. Was that an immediate connection that you made, or was this over time where you're like, oh, these are...
It was kind of both in a weird way. So, the first 10 years of my career, I was a women's magazine writer. So I covered dieting and fitness, for Glamour and Marie Claire and all those sort of big brand places. My first job was at 17 magazine, doing diets for teenagers, which is something I live with now. So all through that decade of doing that reporting, I was sort of constantly rationalizing it to myself. I was kind of constantly saying like, well, like when I left 17, like, okay, I'm not going to do weight loss for teenagers anymore. That's terrible. But like adult women, that's fine. Like they can make their own choices. And that's a total rationalization. Or, I'd say, well, this isn't really a diet. It's I would do all the same rhetoric. This one is just about portion control. And that's different than cutting out food. Like it's not different. It's the same shit. Sorry. So that, that was the sort of place I was in when Violet was born and when we were pushed into this whole crazy world of having a baby on a feeding tube. And I think, there was this really clarifying moment where when I realized now I had this child who couldn't eat, and I realized how much of my sense of motherhood was tied up in, I will feed her in exactly the right way. I will, of course, breastfeed. I will do this so perfectly. Like this is how I was defining my motherhood. And I didn't have that anymore. And I had to sort of figure out, well, how the hell am I going to be a mother to this child if I can't feed her? It pushed me so far out of the regular paradigm of how we think about food that's when I realized like, okay, I have spent all this time looking for this external set of rules to tell me how to do this. And I've spent so long trying to do this the quote right way and measure up to somebody's standards about this. And now I'm in a situation where there are no rules. There is nobody can tell us like these. We have, her heart surgeon was one of the world's best heart surgeons, and he could not tell me how to have this baby eat. Like, there was nothing for us. We were going to have to figure it out on our own. And which is not to say nobody works on pediatric feeding problems. There are wonderful people doing this work, but like, it's not the norm. There's not a clear playbook.
Yeah.
There's not this sort of set of answers. You don't like 1, 2, 3, follow this plan. You have to figure out like what the child's dealing with and like support the child and go through this much more intuitive process. And that's when I was like, if I'm going to make food safe for her, I have to make it safe for me too. I have to sort of turn off all this noise. There was like this weird parallel between, those of us who've spent so much time in our adult lives feeling like we eat too much, and now this baby who couldn't eat at all. But it was like the same mixed up messages coming at us. So there was sort of an epiphany early on where I started to think like, this feels too familiar. This feels like somewhere I've been before and it didn't work. And I can see it's not going to work now. When I started looking into the therapies that were available and realizing that they wouldn't work for us. But it was a longer process then of sort of doing the work with her, helping her recover, and the recovery kind of work I was doing on myself in that process. And, we really went through all of that before I was like, oh, okay, there's a book here. There's a bigger story to tell.
Whenever they were giving her a feeding tube, I don't know what they were putting in it. And then you were like, can we put real food in? And they said it would clog up the machine. I'm real mad about that. Is that fair or am I being crazy?
No. We were feeding her formula. And so this was when she was probably coming up on about a year old. We were in the hospital. She was being fed formula through a feeding tube. And I am not anti-formula. I am a very pro-formula parent. My second daughter lived on formula as well. Love it. But we were having this problem with Violet where she was vomiting constantly on the feeding tube. And we had a feeling that the formula, you're trying to rule out, like, no one can really explain why this baby keeps throwing up. And one option is maybe what you're feeding her is causing a problem. Like, it makes sense to experiment with that.
Sure.
And the doctor was like, no, you can't do. And I looked into it. There's this whole world of people who have kids on feeding tubes and they blend up real food for them and like make, basically like weird smoothies that they feed their kids every day. And I really wanted to try it for her because I thought this feels like a really critical step. Like, if I have this baby who's only been tube fed formula and I want to get her to be able to eat food by mouth, like, we have to sort of slowly introduce her to things. Yeah. And the doctor shut it down because she said it will clog the feeding tube. And that's when I realized, like, she wasn't seeing my child as human.
Yes.
She was seeing her as a medical device to manage and not as a person who deserved to have a relationship with food. And I want to be really clear, like, when we did go to the blended food route, which we did then do a few months later, it's a lot of work. It's really time intensive. It is not for every parent in that situation. Formula is great and life-saving. So this is not like a, Whole Foods, like that's what you need to be eating.
Yeah.
In our situation, it was really helpful because it helped us understand, what foods were working for her and how to sort of gradually introduce her so that then when she was eating by mouth, it was a helpful tool for us, but it's not for everyone. But the larger point there is that doctor just wasn't even considering any of that. Mm-hmm. And I think whether you're feeding a person with a tube and formula or you're feeding them with, food from your garden, whatever, whole food thing, the bottom line is, like, everyone's different. Everyone has their own context with food and everyone deserves the chance to have that relationship and to figure out their preferences and what works for their body and what gives them comfort and joy. And
that
at that
was
point,
beautiful. What you wrote about, like at the end when you said how, breastfeeding is nourishment, but they also fall in love.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I get that. And you made it was just so beautifully put and so important to say that, like, and you deserve comfort and pleasure and joy too, which shouldn't be a big thing to say, but
shouldn't be that revolutionary, but Yeah. I mean, we are, as humans, hardwired to seek comfort out of food. If babies did not find eating comforting, they wouldn't do it, because that's what happened to my kid,
right.
In this dramatic situation, I saw that. So it is fundamental that we can seek pleasure and comfort in food. And instead we live in this culture that tells us that enjoying what you eat is somehow this like major transgression that you need to atone for. Right. And that's really what that whole experience was. I was like, okay, this doctor doesn't care about her experiencing comfort from food, doesn't care about my role, my emotions as the mother, trying to have that relationship with her. And then, big picture, we all deserve to have that. We all deserve to eat things that comfort us. And you really can't have nutrition if you don't have comfort. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Like, to me, that is actually the much more fundamental need.
You also do such a great job of showing the intersection of all these factors that contribute to our biases and like bad ideas, like class and status and all this stuff. What do you think the misconceptions are about the way we talk about how poor people might eat or live?
Oh, yes. There's so much here. So I think we have a very common misconception in our culture, and it is baked right into public health policy. It is baked into the way, food stamps get given out and distributed, the sort of amount of paperwork we require from poor people in order to qualify for SNAP benefits, for school lunches. There's all these different infrastructures that exist that are supposed to support poor people in need with feeding their families. And they are actually incredibly stigmatizing and shaming, because fundamentally we are a culture that shames poverty and that assumes that if you're poor, it's your fault. Mm-hmm. And then we also assume that if you're poor and you can't afford to feed your family, you must also not understand anything about food, and you must need to be taught about nutrition like you're a 5-year-old. And it's an incredibly patronizing and incredibly inaccurate picture of poverty. And so, yeah, I have a chapter in the book where I spent time with several low-income moms in Philadelphia, women of color living on food stamps, and, went to the grocery stores with them, like watched what they made for family meals, and the ingenuity that they have in figuring out how to stretch their budget, how to have enough for the people in their lives, how to show love and comfort to their children through food, even though one of their biggest fears is having enough food to feed their children. Like, that is so instructive to all of us who have never had to live with food insecurity. And, any privileged person, I think it's really important to reckon with, like, how much do I think I'm like so good at healthy eating because I have, even if you have a nutrition degree, even if you've done sort of higher education around this, like, how much of it is actually just privilege that you can go into a grocery store and buy whatever you want to buy versus you have to make really logical choices. Like, I'm not going to buy $6 organic strawberries this week because I have $20 for food, and strawberries are not going to send a child to bed with a full stomach. Like, it's not good nutrition. It's not logical. In fact, the dollar menu at McDonald's is better nutrition because you're getting more calories for your buck at that point. And when you're on a tight budget, that makes sense.
And it's delicious.
And it's delicious and comforting. To come back to that theme that I can't really hit hard enough, like, everybody deserves comfort. And that's another thing too. Like, we have this image that, like, if you're poor, you no longer deserve pleasure.
Yes.
And, I just think, I remember talking to one mom who was like, but my kid's birthday is coming up and I want her to have a birthday cake. And, like, why can't my kid have a birthday cake if your kid can have one just because you can afford, like why would you deprive this kid of that joy and that moment and the frosting and the sprinkles and, yeah, it's a lot of opportunity to examine our biases, to examine our racism, our classism, definitely fat phobia. These assumptions, also most of these women were in bigger bodies. And there was this assumption that if they were in a bigger body, they didn't understand healthy eating, when I think if you talk to any fat person, they know way more about nutrition because it's shoved down our throats all the time. So, yeah, I think it's important to really strip a lot of that back and say, okay, actually what we need to do is make it possible for people to afford to feed their families with dignity, and then get the hell out of their way and let them make the choices that make sense for them.
Yeah. We just can't resist it though. Like, we want to punish.
Yeah, absolutely.
People.
Especially if they're single moms. I mean, especially if they're single moms of color. Yeah, absolutely. We are sure they've done something wrong.
Didn't you ever just want to quit this book and just throw it out the window? I would be so mad if I was immersed in it. I mean, we all are culturally, but like, you were really in it. Didn't you ever feel rage?
Oh, yes. Okay. Lots of rage. Yes. Rage is a primary emotion of my life.
Oh, good. Okay. Me too.
But I think also there is something cathartic in telling these stories. Yeah. In learning from people, I learned so much from the people who I talked to, who I profiled in the book. And I think, there's something really hopeful about seeing people fighting really hard for this kind of stuff. It's both. It's always both. It's both depressing and there's these moments of hope. Yeah. And, and when you see, now I'm in a position, my daughter, who I wrote about in the book, is now 8 years old. She has a really beautiful relationship with food that's so like, nice. Incredibly like stress-free, and she takes comfort in it, and she has that. And so I know what's possible if we push back against these cultural narratives, and if we work really hard to make our homes free of diet culture noise and free of this like good food, good person, bad person, all of this stuff. I can see it working in both my daughters' lives. And so that's very motivating to think like, okay, this is something that we can make progress on.
Yes, I agree. And I'm doing my best because as you absorb how you're raised. So if you're raised in a home where fat is the enemy and whatever, you internalize it. So then now I'm having to like undo it all. Hopefully. Okay. Last thing. I really find the conversation, which I think is what your next book explores more about, the like school lunches and all this stuff. And you know how people love posting on Instagram their pictures of their bento boxes and all their hummus or whatever the heck. Because, you know, social media kind of magnified a lot of our existing nonsense. So what do you think we could do? I know this is a bigger question, but just like with the school lunch situation, like you mentioned on your Instagram, like leaning into like the food that's available that is now for many people free, blah, blah, blah. But what do you think? What are we going to do?
Yeah. So I wrote a long piece about school lunches on my newsletter a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, what I am pushing back against is I think there's this conception in our culture that really comes from diet culture, really comes from that Instagram bento box, you know, thing, that school food isn't good enough for our kids. Yeah. And in fact, when you look at what's been happening in school food, it is true that this particular school year, school food is having a lot of trouble because there's a lot of supply chain issues and labor shortages. It's quite a complicated situation. But even with those problems, school food is really at its baseline quite good. And it has been quite good since about 2010 when Michelle Obama pressed this, you know, got the big Healthy and Hunger-Free Kids Act passed, and there was a huge overhaul to school lunch nutrition standards. So there's been a ton of progress in this area. And because we sort of in our little Instagram bubbles are like, but what about, don't I need a Planet box? And don't I need to send, you know, like goji berries and dehydrated dragon fruit or whatever? You know, that is a definition of healthy eating that is not what's on the school menu, but is also not realistic or attainable for most people and not what kids like to eat for the most part. And so the other thing to understand is that school lunches, the more parents that opt in, the more kids that participate in public school lunch programs, the more funding schools get for school lunch programs. So if you are not happy with your school lunch program, the way to make it better is to participate, not to say, I had to pack a lunch. Because when you say, well, I have to pack a lunch because it's not good enough for my kid, what you're also saying is it's good enough for the poor kids who can't afford to pack a lunch. It's good enough for them. I'm going to opt out of being a part of the solution and making this better. And so that's really what I want to push back against is this idea that we sort of exist in these little silos and like and again, there's a lot of nuance to this. There's a lot of reasons why, you know, food allergies, there's things that come up where you're going to pack a lunch sometimes. I'm not saying no one can ever pack a lunchbox again. Cause I got a lot of DMs about that.
Yeah, I saw it was real.
Yeah. But, you know, do look at like, is this really necessary for my kid to eat lunch? Or is this me putting my own filter of like what I think good food is and what I think is healthy, which is really a diet culture definition of that food. And maybe your kid doesn't need that. Maybe your kid actually would really benefit from eating tater tots and applesauce, you know, with their classmates. And there's lots of benefits to having that communal eating experience, that comfort we talked about. And again, you're helping to make school food better and more accessible to families who really need it. So there's a real...
That was a point I never thought about. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. And it is free most places now. So that's great.
Wouldn't you be so excited if someone made you tater tots every day?
I mean, it's kind of the dream. Yeah, it's kind of the dream.
Okay, last question we ask everybody. If you have a car, what do you keep in the trunk of your car?
Oh God. I think right now I still have a potty seat in the trunk of my car.
I've had that before.
Which is a stage of life I'm very excited to almost be done with.
Yeah. That's exciting.
And I know for sure back there. Also probably a lot of like snack wrappers from my children. And various things my dog has chewed on. So yeah, our cars are not, we are not status car people. And
I'll tell you what though, having a potty in there, that's pretty awesome. It comes in handy.
You find yourself on the side of a road with a kid who can't hold it till the next rest stop.
Nature calls. I've been there.
I will be really happy when it no longer needs to live in our car. We're almost there.
I love
My kids
it.
are 4 and 8, so we're getting there.
Yes, you're on your way. And I hope everyone reads The Eating Instinct, Food Culture, Body Image, and Guilt in America, and also signs up for your newsletter, Burnt Toast. I will have to sign up.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and you can always send me questions. I do a lot of answering questions, and not just parents, although there's a parent focus about diet culture and all of that. So send over questions. They may show up in a future newsletter, and yeah.
Yeah, and keep writing because you're doing the Lord's work and you're helping people like me to sort all this out. And it's so great what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.